17, 2024, News Report 1. On December 17, 2024, former Vice Governor of Jiangxi Province, Hu Chang, who was involved in the Zhou Gongzi flaunts wealth controversy, was formally prosecuted by the Procuratorate. The incident began in 2022 when a man named Zhou Jia, an employee of a state-owned enterprise in Jiangxi, boasted about his wealth on social media, including one statement that caught widespread attention. He claimed, "This cigarette given to me by Vice Governor Hu is something you can't buy outside." This remark quickly sparked widespread discussion, with netizens speculating about the identity of the Vice Governor Hu. It was eventually discovered that Hu Chang was the only Vice Governor of Jiangxi Province at the time. At 62 years old, Hu Chang had served as Vice Governor of Jiangxi since January 2018 and was elected Vice Chairman of the Jiangxi Provincial Political Consultative Conference in January 2022. However, in February of this year, he was placed under investigation by the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection for suspected serious violations of discipline and law. In August, he was expelled from the Communist Party and transferred to judicial authorities for prosecution. In December, the Longyan City Procuratorate in Fujian Province formally charged Hu Chang with bribery. The case has been transferred to the Longyan Intermediate People's Court. According to the indictment, Hu Chang began his corrupt path when he was promoted to Deputy Director of the Jiangxi Provincial Department of Finance in 2003, and his corruption continued for nearly 20 years. This case once again highlights the complex struggles within the officialdom. Some commentators pointed out that the flaunting wealth cigarette became the trigger for Hu Chang's investigation, serving as a warning to other officials. News Report 2. On December 17, 2024, the Intermediate People's Court of Xing'an League in Inner Mongolia carried out the execution of the death sentence for Li Jianping, the former party secretary of the Hohhot Economic and Technological Development Zone. Li was accused of massive economic crimes, including illegally possessing 1.4 billion yuan of state assets, accepting bribes totaling 570 million yuan, and embezzling 1 billion yuan in public funds, with a total amount involved in the case reaching 3 billion yuan. Li Jianping was sentenced to death in September 2022 in the first trial. He appealed, but the court dismissed his appeal and upheld the original sentence. This execution marks a rare instance of a death sentence in economic crime cases since the 18th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. Looking back at similar cases in recent years, in January 2021, Lai Xiamen, the former chairman of China Huarong Asset Management Company, was sentenced to death and executed for accepting bribes totaling 1.788 billion yuan, embezzlement, and other crimes. In May of this year, Bai Tianhui, the general manager of Huarong International, was also sentenced to death for bribery and embezzlement of large sums of money, with the case still under review. Li Jianping's case has once again attracted public attention to the severe punishment of economic crimes and highlights the ongoing efforts in the anti-corruption struggle. News Report 3. According to the New York Times, U.S. President Joe Biden is preparing to launch a trade investigation into China's mature processed chips due to concerns that the U.S. dependency on these chips may pose a national security threat. This investigation is expected to last for 6 months, and any potential actions or enforcement measures may not be decided until after the Trump administration takes office in 2025. Meanwhile, Reuters reported that the U.S. Department of Commerce is planning to stop the operations of China Telecom's U.S. subsidiary, citing national data security concerns. Reports suggest that China Telecom might access U.S. data through cloud computing and internet services, potentially passing it on to the Chinese government. Previously, the U.S. government had restricted the 3 major Chinese telecom companies from offering phone and internet services in the U.S., but some Chinese firms continue to operate cloud and data center businesses in the country. There is ongoing debate about the Biden administration's stance on China-related policies. Some analysts believe the Biden administration has been indecisive in its technology policy, such as delays in signing technology agreements, which may allow the Trump administration to take over the decision-making process. Critics argue that this approach creates greater uncertainty for the continuity of future policies. These actions indicate that the U.S. government's concerns over U.S.-China technology and data security issues are continuing, but policy enforcement and future developments will need further observation. News Report 4. According to Reuters, China's leaders have agreed to raise the fiscal deficit target for 2024 to 4% of GDP. This increase from the 3% deficit target in 2023 is expected to add about 1.3 trillion yuan to the budget scale. In fact, the possibility of increasing the deficit rate was mentioned several times at the Central Economic Work Conference. This adjustment is closely related to next year's economic growth target. Reports suggest that China's 2024 economic growth target will likely remain around 5%, in line with market expectations. Typically, specific fiscal deficit rates and economic growth targets will be officially announced in the government work report by Premier Li Qiang during the National People's Congress and the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference in March 2024. Given China's current fiscal scale, although the addition of 1.3 trillion yuan in new budget funds is substantial, its impact is relatively limited compared to the annual fiscal revenue of 22 trillion yuan. Analysts believe this measure will provide stronger financial support for increasing investment, stabilizing growth, and promoting domestic demand, while also reflecting greater flexibility in government economic policies. The market generally believes that increasing the deficit rate and clarifying the economic growth target will help boost market confidence and drive stable recovery of China's economy in 2024. News Report 5. Bloomberg reports that the U.S. think tank, the Conference Board, recently released a new survey showing a significant decline in European and American business confidence in China's economy. The survey, conducted between September 20th and 28th, revealed that the confidence index among CEOs of European and American companies in China dropped from 56% 6 months ago to 49%. Notably, this index is based on a 50-point threshold, with values above 50 indicating optimism and values below 50 signaling pessimism. This marks the first time since the pandemic that European and American executives have expressed pessimism regarding China's economic outlook. The majority of CEOs surveyed believe that the slowdown in China's economy is the greatest risk they face. The decline in consumer purchasing power in China has led to reduced revenues for businesses. Many consumers are seeking discounts or postponing purchases, while local competitors are capturing market share by offering lower prices. This situation has intensified the challenges faced by foreign businesses operating in China. Founded in 1916, the Conference Board is a non-profit organization whose members include the largest multinational corporations globally. The survey results have raised further concerns in the market regarding Sino-foreign economic cooperation and the future of multinational companies. News Report 6. Nikkei Asia reports that Japan's Asian Economic Research Institute has recently released a report analyzing the long-term impact of tariffs imposed by the Trump administration on Mexico, Canada, and China. The analysis is based on Trump's decision to impose a 25% tariff on Mexican and Canadian goods and a 10% tariff on Chinese goods. The research shows that the tariff policies are expected to have a counterproductive effect on the U.S. economy, with a projected 1.1% decrease in U.S. GDP by 2027. Additionally, these tariffs will negatively impact the economies of other countries. Mexico's GDP is expected to decline by 3.8%, Canada's GDP by 1.2%, and China's GDP by 0.3%. In contrast, Japan is projected to benefit. As a replacement supplier for some Chinese export products, Japan's GDP is expected to increase by 0.2% by 2027. This reflects the complex impact of tariff policies on global trade dynamics and underscores the importance of regional economic adjustments. The study highlights that uncertainty in trade policies not only disrupts global supply chains but could also have lasting effects on the long-term economic growth of various countries. News Report 7. Voice of America reports that on December 16, U.S. District Court Judge Juan Merchan dismissed President-elect Trump's request to overturn his conviction in the hush money case. This case stems from a March 2023 indictment by the Manhattan District Attorney, accusing Trump of falsifying business records to conceal a $130,000 hush payment made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels during the 2016 presidential campaign. In May, the Manhattan Criminal Court jury found Trump guilty of falsifying business records. Trump's legal team had invoked the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on July 1, claiming that actions taken while in office should be afforded some level of criminal immunity. They also argued that the prosecution presented improper evidence, including testimony from Trump's White House residence and posts on his social media accounts. However, Judge Merchan ruled that the evidence was only a small part of the case and did not infringe on executive power. He concluded that the falsification of business records was clearly a personal matter and rejected the request to dismiss the charges. The final outcome of the hush money case remains uncertain. The sentencing date, originally scheduled for November 22, was indefinitely postponed by Judge Merchan, and the future ruling is still to be determined. News Report 8. On December 16, President-elect Donald Trump met with TikTok CEO Shou Zi Chew at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. Just hours before the meeting, Trump stated in a press conference that he had a special affection for TikTok and hinted that he might intervene in the Biden administration's decision to ban the app. TikTok is currently facing a critical moment in the U.S. In April of this year, President Biden signed a bill requiring TikTok, owned by Chinese company ByteDance, to sever its ties with the parent company by January 19, 2025, or face a ban in the U.S. TikTok appealed the decision, but on December 6, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals rejected the appeal. TikTok then submitted an emergency application to the U.S. Supreme Court to block the law's enforcement. However, as of now, TikTok has not gained support from the court. The pressure on TikTok began during Trump's presidency when his administration attempted to force the company to sell its U.S. operations on national security grounds, but this was never fully implemented. Trump's renewed support for TikTok marks a shift in policy, but the specific actions and their potential impact remain uncertain. Meanwhile, TikTok is also facing new challenges in Europe. On December 17, the European Commission announced a formal investigation into TikTok for allegedly interfering in Romania's November presidential election. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen stated there were serious indications that Russia used TikTok to influence the election, and the Commission is investigating whether TikTok took appropriate measures to mitigate such risks. News Report 9. According to AFP, on December 17, Russian Chemical Defense Forces Commander Kirillov was killed in a bomb attack near a residential building in Moscow. The bomb, disguised as an electric scooter parked near the entrance of the building, was remotely detonated as Kirillov exited the building. The attack took place about 7 kilometers from the Kremlin, in Moscow's central area. The Ukrainian security service later claimed responsibility for the attack, stating it was a retaliation for Russia's use of chemical weapons on the battlefield. According to Ukrainian military statistics, Russian forces have used chemical weapons as many as 4,800 times since the start of the war. This claim has yet to be independently verified, but Ukraine has consistently accused Russia of using banned weapons. As the commander of Russia's chemical defense forces, Kirillov's death is a significant blow to the Russian military leadership and marks an escalation in Ukraine's targeted strikes within Russian territory. The attack, located just 7 kilometers from the Kremlin, signals that Ukraine's strike capabilities have penetrated deep into Russia's core regions. This incident is likely to further intensify the Russia-Ukraine conflict and pose new challenges to Moscow's security situation. Russia has not yet publicly responded to Ukraine's accusations, but it may soon implement stricter security measures and increase retaliatory strikes against Ukraine. News Report 10. Radio Free Asia reports that from December 3 to 14, the Philippine Navy conducted a rotation of troops and delivered supplies to 9 islands and reefs in the South China Sea. During the mission, the Philippine Navy did not face obstruction from Chinese Coast Guard ships. A spokesperson for the Philippine Navy stated that their ships encountered Chinese military vessels and Coast Guard ships near the Ayungin Shoal, but no conflict occurred. The successful completion of the mission demonstrates the continued operational presence of the Philippine Navy in the South China Sea and reflects the ongoing maritime interaction between China and the Philippines, despite tensions. The Philippine military emphasized its commitment to fulfilling lawful activities in the South China Sea and ensuring the safety of its troops and islands. News Report 11. Reuters reports that on December 16, the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York sentenced Canadian national plugger Bell to 2 years in prison for stealing Tesla's trade secrets with the intent to sell them. The 59-year-old Bell had worked for the Canadian company C. Baha, which produced equipment for battery manufacturing. In 2019, Tesla acquired C. Baha, and during this period, Bell stole the company's technology and, along with colleague Xiao Yilong, presumed to be Chinese, planned to sell these technologies. Bell and Xiao Yilong took the stolen technology to China and founded their own company, producing electronics assembly and battery manufacturing equipment similar to Tesla's. However, their activities were eventually uncovered by the FBI, leading to Bell's arrest and conviction. This case highlights the threat posed by industrial espionage to technology and intellectual property protection. News Report 12. According to NHK, on December 17, the Japanese Senate passed a supplementary budget for the 2024 fiscal year, amounting to 13 trillion yen. The budget focuses on supporting the public welfare and advancing technological development. The three main expenditure areas are: 1. Public subsidies. 3.4 trillion yen is allocated for continuing subsidies to help cover the cost of living for Japanese citizens. Starting in January 2024, the government will extend subsidies for postal fees, electricity, and gas bills for a 3-month period. Additionally, low-income households will receive a one-time subsidy of 30,000 yen per household, while families with children will receive 20,000 yen per child. 2. Advanced technology support. 5.8 trillion yen is designated to support research and investment in advanced technologies such as semiconductors and artificial intelligence, enhancing Japan's competitiveness in the high-tech sector. 3. Disaster reconstruction and defense. 4.8 trillion yen will be allocated for reconstruction efforts in severely affected areas like the Noto Peninsula and for strengthening Japan's defense system. This budget plan reflects the Japanese government's strategic focus on ensuring citizens' welfare, promoting technological innovation, and enhancing national defense, illustrating how a democratic nation allocates resources to address current economic and social challenges. News Report 13. According to the United Daily News, the Taipei-Shanghai Twin City Forum was held in Taipei on December 17. During the event, Shanghai's Vice Mayor Hua Yuan expressed that Shanghai would actively encourage residents to travel to Taiwan, aiming to foster exchanges and grassroots interactions between the two regions. Taipei Mayor Chang Wanan emphasized the value of peace and expressed hope that cross-strait relations could be more warm and less tense. Chang Wanan's remarks underscored the importance of peace, advocating for a more rational and friendly relationship between the two sides, and a reduction in confrontational and tense atmospheres. He also stated that the Kuomintang, KMT, should maintain its position without compromise. After the forum, the Shanghai delegation visited Taipei's Taipei Arena and later returned to mainland China by plane. The forum's atmosphere was relatively cordial, highlighting a shared consensus to promote exchanges, but Chang's comments also reflected a call for peace and stability in cross-strait relations. News Report 14. According to Reuters, on December 17, a 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck the Pacific island nation of Vanuatu at noon, with a depth of 10 kilometers. The earthquake triggered a tsunami approximately 1 meter high, resulting in at least 1 death and 3 injuries. The epicenter was near Vanuatu's capital, Port Vila, where the earthquake caused severe damage to buildings. Some areas were almost leveled, and several vehicles were buried under rubble, leading to additional destruction. Additionally, the buildings housing the embassies of the United States, the United Kingdom, France, and New Zealand in Port Vila suffered varying degrees of damage, including cracks, collapses, and the complete disappearance of some ground floors. Due to safety concerns, these embassies have temporarily closed to ensure the safety of staff and residents. Local authorities and international aid organizations are conducting disaster relief and assessment efforts.